We all have that. And if we look into other sentient beings that we share this planet with, like the animals, we know that also animals have fear. And we know how they behave when they experience fear. And so what I thought what we could do is to use the first teaching of the Buddha as like a structure for the day, and that we're going to go through the Four Noble Truths, and we relate that to fear, so that we analyze, what actually happens in the mind when fear arises, and when we analyze that with the help of the Four Noble Truths. And I'm going to ask if anybody is new here, or is new to Buddhism. You're here for the first time? You know a little bit about Buddhism, or a little bit? You have heard of the Four Noble Truths? Good. Anybody else? Have you heard of the Four Noble Truths? Yes. So the Four Noble Truths is that the Buddha taught that life is in the nature of suffering. Not life is suffering, life is in the nature of suffering. Which means that if we live life without just as it comes, without thinking about anything, then suffering will definitely come, right? And also the suffering will be there in a way that it perpetuates. It doesn't stop. There is no end to that suffering. So that is the first noble truth. And we might get already depressed. Oh my God, life is in the nature of suffering. I thought we were talking here about happiness. Yes, we are. But in order to understand the happiness that we are trying to develop in the mind, we need to understand what is actually happening in daily life, Just like the Four Noble Truths are sometimes compared to when we are sick, and we go to the doctor. First, the doctor will do an interview with you. What are you suffering from? What is actually going on? And he will keep asking questions. What is that? What is going on in your body? Right? That is the first noble truth. What is the nature of your suffering? And then when we know that, then the doctor can think, well, what could be the cause? So he will start asking you, like, how do you react to this, and how do you do this, and can we find the cause? Is there a cause for the disease? Is that related to your behavior, to your food, to your whatever? Right? He will look for the cause of suffering. So that is the second noble truth. And then from that, the doctor can think, well, actually, we can remove this cause. You can become free of this cause, so you can become free of that suffering, right? In order to know whether we can become free of the suffering, we need to know what is the cause, what am I doing that makes me suffer? True? And so then we're going to see that, can I become free of that? And if so, what do I need to do in order to become free of that? So he will say, you need to eat better, you need to go to the gym, you need to go for walks, you need to whatever, many things that we can do. We can follow a path that shows us how we become free of that suffering. Right, so that is a little bit in general what so in the morning we're going to talk about the suffering itself, and that fear causes us. What is fear actually? And the causes of fear, and the causes of why we suffer from that fear. And then in the afternoon, we're going to talk about the freedom of that fear, how we can maybe lessen the fear, how we can, when fear arises, what can we do in order to take care of ourselves in a way that it doesn't get out of control and takes over. All right? So I think you all bring a little package of fear with you today. And I'm sure everyone has their own personal fear, right? I think if I would go to everyone, that everyone has a different fear that you express. Or I suffer from this fear. Oh, but this makes me really scared, right? We all have something different. If we would have been with 10 people, I would have gone around. But now it's maybe a little bit difficult. So that is a little bit the structure of the day. And for those who have been here, normally when we do Buddhist teachings, then there are two things that are important at the beginning of teachings is that we set a good motivation. And then on the basis of that, we take refuge. And I'll explain that a little bit what that means. Good motivation means, it's not that we have bad motivations, right? I think most human beings have good intentions. We have good intentions. But if we look at where our normal intention comes from, it is very much in the here and the now, and the time it is just for me, right? Maybe also for the person in front of me. So our mind is a little bit short-sighted and has the blinkers on. And so when we come from, even if it is a good intention, when we come from that place, that comes up automatically. Often that comes from an emotional. It comes from an emotional place, from a disturbing emotion. It comes from an attachment, or, I want to please someone. Why do I want to please someone? Oh, because I want them to like me. Why do I want them to like me? Oh, because when they don't like me, I get so scared. I feel rejected, or, right? So even a good intention to please someone can come from a fear. And when we act from that fear, I'm actually kind of self-centered, right? It can look good, what I'm doing, but I'm coming from a place that is serving me. True? It is serving the self. It is serving me. It is benefiting me. Although it looks like I'm benefiting somebody else, I'm benefiting to benefit me. So in Buddhism, we say that motivation eventually can only lead to suffering. Although it looks good, but it only leads to suffering. So when we want to create, when we want to make sure that what we are doing today is going to become a cause for our happiness, we have to transform that motivation in a motivation that is not just about me and not just about now or this life. So we have to open up the mind. Do we understand that? We have to open up the mind, and we need to, first of all, make it bigger than this life. It's like whether there's going to be some benefit in this life or not, I should not care about that. So how can I not care about that if I make it about something bigger than this life, or something bigger even than also me? For instance, my mind is very distracted. If we want to set up what we call a good motivation, that motivation is not about this life, and it's not just about me. So in Buddhism, what we generate, the best motivation to generate, is that whatever we are doing that in order to develop our potential for wisdom and compassion. And we want to develop that potential for wisdom and compassion, and in a way that it becomes fully consumed or fully developed. And so the state in which we develop our wisdom and compassion fully, we call that enlightened or enlightenment. When I achieve that state, I have achieved the state of enlightenment, right? So sometimes it feels like that's so far away, that's so difficult. But think about my wisdom and compassion. I want to develop my wisdom and compassion as much as I can. And why do I do that? Only for myself? Not only for myself. Yes, for myself. But also, when I develop my wisdom and compassion, I will be of more benefit to everybody else that I come in contact with, right? If I have compassion for myself, I will automatically have more compassion for anybody who is in front of me, who is maybe suffering from the same things that I'm suffering from. I know what it feels like. And when I know how it feels like, and I know how to generate compassion for myself, then when I see that you suffer from that, automatically there is that compassion, right? So that is what we try to generate in the mind, that whatever we are doing, it's not just for now, it's not just for my benefit, but it is in order to develop our qualities, the qualities of the mind, the qualities of wisdom and compassion. And when they develop, we benefit ourselves in the best way, and we also benefit others in the best way. right? And so then when we say in Buddhism, we say, then how do I do that? Well, first we need to rely upon teachers that are going to show us the way. Because we're going to go to a place that is going beyond us and beyond whatever we ever have done, whatever we know. We don't know where we're going, right? It's like I'm going in the car and I think, you know what, I'm going to Brisbane. I've heard of Brisbane, but I have no idea where that is. And I just start driving. You know, it's like, it doesn't make any sense. I might go in circles and keep ending up in Adelaide. But if there is somebody who knows where Brisbane is, I ask them, where's Brisbane? Where do I go? Best to ask somebody who has been in Brisbane, from Adelaide, has gone to Brisbane. Right? And in terms of developing our own qualities, best to ask somebody who has started where we are now and has done the whole journey and has developed all the qualities. Right? And so in Buddhism, that is the Buddha. And the qualities, they are developed in dependence upon the teachings of the Buddha, which we call the Dharma. And then while we are on the journey, we need the support of everyone who is on a similar path, who is maybe further than us and who encourages us and supports us. And, you know, so these become our objects of refuge. That is what we take refuge in, which we say, I rely upon you as my guide to get there, where I want to go. All right, so that is the taking refuge. And we can do that formally. You have all a little refuge, a little booklet. My glasses on my head. So you normally do this in English or in Tibetan? Both? 2 times in Tibetan, 1 time in English? Okay, let's do that. So on page 9, it says refuge in bodhicitta. So this is directing the mind in however I just tried to explain that. Sangye chedan sangye chonam la janchu badu dani kyapsu chi nage chinsun pe sonam gi dola penshi sangye rupa shu sangye chedan sangye chonam la janchu badu dani kyapsu chi Nagi chinye gi pe sonam gi dola penshia sange drupa shung. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. All right, we're going to start with the first noble truth. So how I know, normally I teach a little bit interactive. So when there are questions, I mean, we have to see how we go, right? Because if the questions are constantly coming, then there is nothing that I can teach you. But I'm very open if people have questions to, or if you think like, oh my God, I got completely lost. What are you talking about? Or this doesn't make any sense, you know? Feel free. How do we do that? Put up your hand and then how do you do that? You have a mic? You're going to run with the mic or good, fantastic. And I might also ask questions to you, you know, and I find it always very useful to hear what is going on in your mind, so that what we are doing it is about our mind, isn't it? Buddha's teachings is not different from our mind. It gives us a reflection of the mind and the possibilities of the mind. And so in order to receive that, we need to look into our mind. Right? It's not coming somewhere else. It's not that I have teachings and I try to achieve or somehow become these teachings, and then I'm free of what is actually inside here. It's not like that. If the problem is inside here, the solution also has to come from understanding the problem. And then somehow finding the way that that problem dissolves, or that that problem is not a problem anymore. And so in order to, so that's what we're looking at, insight. And so while we go through the day, I'm going to ask you to keep, how is that for me? Does it work for me like that or not? Or maybe you are completely different. And I like to hear that, right? So that when we go home tonight, that we have the feeling I learned something about myself that I can work with, that I can do something with. Right? That's the main thing, that you take something with you home about yourself. Right? Not about something that is written out there. It's about you. All right? Is that a deal? That's really the main thing that we learn about here. All the rest can become blah, 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 right? If we cannot apply it, it is just words. It's just, has no meaning. But the moment we can see it in ourselves, then we can do something with it. And then it becomes very meaningful to go through this. Good. So we're going to look at ourselves like a doctor and say, what's wrong with you? So are you all familiar with how Buddhism presents what a person is, the body and the mind? Have you had teachings on that? Yeah. That the body and the mind are not the same thing? That they're different substances almost? That they connect with each other, they relate to each other, they influence each other, but they are not the same thing. Like sometimes in science they say that the mind is the brain, right? Or somehow coming from the brain. Buddhism says, no. The mind and the brain are two different things, right? Two different substances. So within that mind, the mind itself, if we would look into how does it look like? It looks like space. It is just clear, nothing to see there. It's just like clear space. And there is the quality of knowing. So every moment of mind is clear and knowing. Then within that mind, many things arise, right? It's like we don't have the feeling it's clear. It's quite busy and it's quite a mess sometimes, right? It's like not sure what is all happening, but it's... So whatever arises in the mind, we can think about thoughts, we can think about feelings, we can think about disturbing emotions, we can think about positive emotions, they all arise in the mind. And they influence each other. They themselves are also clear and knowing by nature. Like space. Right? When thoughts come up, sometimes it looks so concrete what arises in the mind. But in actuality, it is like space. So it's good to remember that, because sometimes we become very heavy and it looks also real, but it is just a space in which certain thoughts arise. And I would even say whatever arises there is not even real. It's not even reality itself. Right? It appears like that, but it is not like that. So the mind is that which is clear and knowing, and many things arise in dependence upon causes and conditions. And the potential of the mind is that we can become free of all these disturbances, this darkness, this not knowing, this distorted knowing. We can become completely free of that. Because the most subtle level of that mind is free of that. In the most subtle level of the mind, there are no thoughts, there are no disturbing emotions, there are no, I'm not sure about feelings, but it is completely clear, completely pure. So that's the most subtle level in our mind. When we can tap into that, we cannot at the moment, but highly realized lamas, they can. When we can tap into that, that has such a powerful effect that it can kind of, it's like a kind of an atom bomb that destroys all the things that arise in our mind that we have no control over. Before we get there, we can do many things in order to lessen what is happening in the mind. But we have the potential to completely remove all the disturbances that are in the mind, all the not knowing that is in the mind. It's very important to remember, right? Because we're going to look into something dark, and we have to know that in actuality, when we go through the darkness, there is going to be light. Right? It gives us some courage to do what we are doing, I think. Yeah. So body and mind are different, and we have this potential to develop whatever is possible to be developed. And so then the essence of Buddhism is that when things happen, we do not look outside. And I have to do some self-reflection because of course I also look outside, but the intention is that we look inside. What has it to do with me that this is happening? And how can I do things differently so that they don't happen to me, or so that I do not suffer from when they happen to me? So we are inner beings. Lama Zopa said the workshop is in the mind. Our workshop is in the mind. So when you say tonight to someone, I went to a workshop today, and they say, where was it? And you say, it was in my mind. All right, is everyone okay with this? This is like a kind of a basic understanding of where we are working and what we're going to do. You're ready to go to the fear? So what is fear? And somehow my life is about study. I'm not a studier at all, but somehow it happened. And so I have never seen in any Buddhist book the word fear. You? I've never seen it. So at a certain, but we are full of it, no? So at a certain point we asked one Lama and said, what is actually fear? And he said, oh, it's just an unpleasant feeling. I've never thought about fear as being an unpleasant feeling, right? Fear seems to be so much more, because the whole body seems to be involved, and all these reactions in the body seem to be involved, and we call all that fear. But they say it's just an unpleasant feeling. Doesn't mean we can get rid of it, right? Doesn't mean we can, but we keep that in mind. It is an unpleasant feeling that arises. So we're going to look into what makes that these feelings arise, and we're also going to look into how we react to feelings that arise in the mind, right? But feelings arise. So fear is that. And if we think about unpleasant feelings, we can think about many different types of unpleasant feelings, right? We can, I don't know, we have the feeling maybe of being disconnected, or the feeling of being embarrassed, or the feeling of being tired, or the feeling of being in pain, or these are all unpleasant feelings, right? Fear is one of them. Yeah. So how can we distinguish fear from other unpleasant feelings? So fear arises when we are in danger, or when we feel that we are in danger. We think we are in danger. True? When something gets threatened in our life, something that is important to us, there is a danger. And so when we feel that we are in danger, and it can be the most simple thing, right? I don't know, this morning I kept thinking about, in the COVID time, this hoax about there's no more toilet paper, and how everyone went to get the fear of having no toilet paper. I need something, I believe I need something, and I think it's going to run out, you know? So what happens? So much stress. Hormone comes in the body, and it's activating all kinds of, all whole organs, our muscles, everything gets into a stress. because I need toilet paper, right? Or I need something that I think is going to run out and I think I need it. So can you remember the stress? Just think about the stress, what arises in the mind when we experience fear. And so when that stress arises, there is either the thought, I have to run away, or I need to fight, right? With the toilet paper, that was the fighting. I go to I'm going to get the most, and I have 20 packages, and she has nothing, but I'm going to keep my 20 packages. I'm not going to share that, because you never know what is going to happen, right? That is fear, that is survival, and that is only about me, right? I don't care about you. Here's me, my family, maybe my friends. That's it. You're not my friend. You're not in that group. So you don't get my toilet paper. This is how we behave, right? When we are in the survival mode, when we are in the stress mode. So the self gets very strong, activated. And the self, the nature of the self is I take care of me and of everything that I think is important for me. So that includes my family, my friends. But it does not include people that I don't know or people that I don't like. So that stress hormone, I want to keep it a little bit in the Buddhist terms, but I think we have experienced it so much in the last 5 years, maybe it's good to mention it a little bit. The stress hormone works on what they call the amygdala, which is the emotional center, and even the lower centers in the brain, right? It does not work on the cortex, where we have more analytical thinking. When that reaction is happening in the mind, that analytical thinking is finished. Whatever we are doing doesn't make any sense. There is no more reasoning in that. It is not reasonable anymore. True? We are fully emotional. I believe we are always emotional, 95% of the time. But it's a bit controlled, and we can reason about our emotions. But I think when fear really hits us, even that is not there anymore. Can you see that? We are doing also things that are counterproductive. We are doing things that doesn't make sense. We are saying things that don't make sense. Right? We're becoming very insensible human beings. But we think we're okay because everyone is doing it and everyone is saying the same thing. Everyone is running for the toilet paper and thinking the same thing. So it should be normal, right? It's normal. That's what human beings do. But actually, we lose our brain. We lose our capacity to think critically. Right? So that is one of the dangers. When fear is in the mind, there's no more critical thinking. Dangers in the sense that if that stays too long, we become slave to whatever disturbances are in the mind. We have no more control over that. So we have the fight and the flight reaction. And if the fight and the flight reaction, some people say when they occur simultaneously, for instance, I want to run away, but I cannot because of for instance, when we are little, I want to run away, but I cannot because I cannot run away. As a little kid, I cannot take care of myself. So then we freeze. Something inside us freezes. And so then the mind gets stuck in that freeze reaction. And then from there, we keep generating disturbing emotions. And sometimes we push that so far away within our own mind that we are not even aware of that. Right? But it can be the trigger for many other things where we react in a similar way. Have we ever heard of that? Yeah. Well, we call it suppressed emotion. Yeah. It's not just suppressed emotion. I think the fight and the flight can also be suppressed. But the freeze is where you cannot engage in any action anymore. Where you're completely stuck. And that you think, oh, I know that I could move, but I cannot move. And you just get stuck. Have anyone experience with that? Yeah, we don't have to. I have experience with that. Lots of freezing, you know. I know what I need to do and I'm not doing it. Right? I should go for a walk, but can't go for a walk. I should go for, I can't go for a walk. Don't want to go for a walk. You have these discussions with yourself, you know? So you can then think, is something is so stuck in me that I cannot bring it into a movement, you know? So it's important to, oh, there's something stuck. There's something really stuck. Instead of beating ourselves up, oh, how stupid that you're not doing this. No, what is there stuck? Maybe there's a lot of suffering there that I haven't seen yet. Right? It's not a fault when we freeze. It is our system trying to rescue us from something very dangerous. And then we do not have the tools to come out of that reaction because maybe the experience is too overwhelming. We are too young to digest it, to understand what is happening. We don't have the support to work through that. And then we stay stuck, right? And then when we are stuck and we have that stuckness while we keep growing up, then maybe we are beaten up because of that stuckness, right? You are so lazy and you're never doing anything. And we hear many of these kind of things, but maybe you're just stuck and you're suffering there. So just to go there, we need to undo already so many beliefs maybe that we have about that, which are not in accordance with what is actually happening inside us. Right? So when we look at the fight and the flight and the freeze reaction, we have to be kind of gentle and kind to ourselves and give ourselves the benefit of the doubt and say, maybe I'm not lazy, maybe I'm suffering. And maybe I'm not naughty, but maybe I'm just too painful to go there. You understand what I'm talking about? Yeah. So we have these reactions to fear. And that can be that sometimes we have a one-off thing that we are very afraid of. For instance, I want to cross the road and I'm not looking, or I look at the wrong side, right? Coming from Europe, so that happened in Sydney, I look at the wrong side and I start walking and I think, oh my God, there was a car, right? So then the fear is there. But then I breathe a few times and I can let it go. I'm not going to get stuck in that, right? Unless I keep repeating it. But if I just let it go, it's gone. It's just a one-off thing. Fear can also arise when our circumstances change. So it can be a change that is going to happen that I'm actually very afraid of. For instance, I lose my job and I cannot find a job that gives me the same money, and I have this mortgage and I have these expenses and I have these, very scary. What's going to happen? How do I going to survive, right? Surviving is there. How do I going to survive? But then with time, it can be that you learn to work with that. You know, maybe you have to sell your house. Looks like the biggest disaster that can happen to you. But once you have done it and you find a new house, you think, this is actually also quite nice. And maybe you are used to doing, I don't know, lots of shopping, and then suddenly you don't have, and you do less, and then maybe you start thinking, oh, this is actually feels a little bit more healthy. You know, I don't buy this anymore. That looks also fantastic, but it's maybe not so healthy. So I become more healthy. And then with time, I get used to it. And then maybe I say, wow, that wasn't a big deal. I got used to it, and now I'm fine with it. Right? So in the beginning, we are afraid, but then after time, the mind gets used to it. We adapt to the situation, and then the fear disappears out of the mind. True? Then we become free of that fear. That freedom comes with a joy. So when it happens to you, look forward to the joy that is going to come once you work through the fear. Can you see that? When we are afraid and we have everything and we hold on to it, we do not we cannot be free of that fear, right? It's very difficult when you are scared to lose something to become free of the fear of losing it. But once you lose it, forcefully, you lose it. You know, you have to deal with it. And then once you have worked through that, you are free of that fear. And then you can build up something again, but you're not so afraid anymore to lose it because you know that you can survive when you lose it. You know how to do that. Right? So the mind, in Buddhism we say the mind can get used to anything. When we get a diagnosis, you have cancer, we totally freak out, right? We are scared. I'm going to lose my life, I'm going to die, or whatever comes to the mind. I can't take care of my kids, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. But then they say when we have an illness like that, the mind gets used to it. Yes, I am going to die. Yes, it is going to happen. Yes. You get used to it. The moment that we get used to it, fear is gone. You know? So that's a good thing about our mind. Our mind adapts to whatever situation that we find ourselves in. And then we also have a fear that can continue for a long period of time. I mean, we can think about people in war, where you have to fear your life all the time. I even think you might get used to that also. I don't know. Do we have something that triggers us in the good life that people have in Australia? In a fear that is constantly there, a stress that is constantly there. I'm not good enough. Don't know why it comes to my mind. I'm not good enough. That can be a stress that is all the time there. And no matter what I'm doing, I never become good enough. Right? Because even when I become this good, it's not enough. It's never enough. It always needs to be better. It always needs to be more. That's a constant stress in the body and the mind. Fear of climate change. Yeah, we'll go there a little bit. When we're going to talk about the difference between how we experience fear and how animals experience fear. Yeah. Do they? Uh-huh. Oh, right, right. Yes. We're comparing ourselves, and I mean, we're living in a very sick society, you know. If I open that one, I'm not sure if we're going to have a break. We are asking things from ourselves and from our children, which is not possible, and society keeps demanding that, and keeps fueling that I need to do more, I need to do better, I'm not beautiful enough, and then no matter how I change the photos, I'm still not beautiful enough. Right? And we have AI, and we're going to change whatever we don't like, and then we pretend we are like that, and then I have to meet a person, but I cannot be. It's like it's like no end to that anxiety. No end. They become slave of their anxiety, right? And that is exactly what social media is doing. It's horrible. It's horrible. Nothing nice there. I will talk about more. I will talk about more of that later. You know what social media is doing, what this climate change is doing. Yes. But we can see it's that ongoing anxiety, what they have, right? There is no end to that. And so eventually, maybe they develop eating disorders, you know, then you do lose your weight, then you become too thin, then whatever. It makes you sick. It makes you physically sick. So when the mind and the body go together, when the mind is too long in the stress, the body starts to stress as well. Right? It starts to react. When there is too much anger in the mind, we know the liver starts to react. When there is too much attachment, maybe the spleen and the stomach is starting to react. I mean, everything starts to become agitated inside. Right? Then we have inflammation, then we have food intolerance, then we have allergies, then we have, you name it. All coming from the mind. So yeah, but this is our biggest problem, I think, in life at the moment, what we're doing with each other. I come here and I think, oh my God, you guys have such an incredible, good life. Everything is available. Beautifully. Everywhere where you go, there's beautiful food, beautiful drinks, beautiful environment, beautiful, 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 all beautiful, And then we have a generation of children who are in a constant anxiety, thinking they are not enough. And we forget to let them enjoy what is there. No, it's like we don't even know how to do that anymore. Yeah. But let's go back to our own fear, because we can do something about that. We can't do much about it. But we can understand how the mind works when we look at the bigger systems, what we see when we look at what happens in the mind of children, or what happens in the mind when we talk about climate change, or what happens in the mind. We learn to understand the mind. But then we also have to make sure that we have to know what is actually a sickness and what is healthy in terms of the mind. Because if we're only going to look at the sickness, and then we get anxious and we just go around and around and around, there's no purpose in looking at it. Right? We want to know, what do I do when my mind starts spinning around and gets anxious? So think about what kind of reactions your body is giving when you experience fear or when you experience stress. And is what we call stress, is that coming from fear? Right? Just to check with yourself, how is that in my mind? All right, so remember that for the day. Then we're going to look later into the causes of fear. But before we go there, I want to talk a little bit about that fear reaction that we share with animals. And in a way, we have similarities with animals, but in a way, we have differences with animals, And the differences, they can be a blessing or they can be also a burden. So if we look into animals, how they react to fear. For instance, you are a little something, and a big bear is coming after you, and you have to run for your life. So the body is completely full of a stress hormone. You need to run for your life, and at a certain point, you make it. Right? Then when the animal has made it, the stress hormone is still in the body, but at a certain point you can see that they start to shake their body, and they kind of reset their nervous system. They shake it off, and then they go back to normal, as if nothing has happened. They might not even have the memory. Maybe they have a memory. I'm not sure how they would have a memory. But it is not that when the next time when they see very, very far away a bear, that they think, oh, it's not like that. Only the next time when there is direct danger, that same reaction happens again. Right? So in direct danger, we also have this, or when we are in danger, we also have this fight and flight reaction. And then when the danger is gone, we do not have this shaking, right? So it stays in the body. And we need to find a way to let go of that. How do we do that? How do you do that? Yes.
Breathe.
You breathe. Breathe. Very good. How do we do that? You meditate? And then you go in meditation? Huh? It slows down a little bit. Yes. So you sit with yourself. Yeah. If I call it like that, you sit with yourself. You meditate on the fear, or you meditate on what happened, or you meditate on something else? On the breath. So then when we go to the breath is something that is like in between, right? And when we can kind of control the breath and slow it down, also that whole reaction, that stress reaction, calms down. So that is a very good entrance of calming down that stress reaction using the breath. Yeah.
Sometimes we try and rationalize it. That can also be irrational.
You rationalize like nothing happened, and
Then it won't happen again, but then it can become an irrational sort of.
But does it work?
Depends on the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Some reality of fear. It's not such a thing to be fearful of. That's more logical, but other times.
Yeah. And so when it stays in the mind, then what do we do? What happens in the mind when it stays in the mind?
It can become a bit chronic, become a bit subtle, and then increase that reaction.
Yeah, so the flight or fight reaction increases.
Yes, you become more hypersensitive and hyper-aware of the possibility of that happening again.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is your mind saying when it stays in the mind? What does the mind do? It's preparing you. And so then we have the feeling that when I prepare myself that it might happen again, and so then I make sure that I don't go completely in it, it won't happen again. You can escape from it. Yeah, right. Is that true?
Probably not.
Probably not. We do this, no? We prepare, and then we think, I'm going to be ready when it happens again. Yeah. And while in actuality, I'll just give it straight away. In actuality, if we would be like the animal and completely relax after, we have the full reaction to our ready, even if it feels like we're completely relaxed. And we think, no, I need to be a little bit tense to prepare so that I'm ready. But we are then actually, when it happens, we cannot react in the same way as when we are relaxed, right? So this is a contradiction. It's like logically, it is not logic, but that's what we do. Yeah. Do people recognize that we do that? We prepare. We already get tense. Oh my God, I have to go to Buddha house after. The tension is there. Well, if I just relax, it will all be fine. But we believe if I do that, it's going to be better. And it's not. We are the best when we totally relax. Then when we need it, it is fully there. Sometimes we think when I relax, it won't be there. When I relax, I will not react on time. When I relax, right? And if you recognize that, we have to check, is that really true? And we can be so scared that we are too scared to relax. Then we have to think, what can relax? What can help me to relax? No? Sometimes a big hug from somebody else, maybe, or from mom, that we feel like, oh, now I can relax. Now I feel safe again. What makes me safe? And we have to go back to that safety before we can. Because I think only when we go back to that feeling of safety, where we totally relax, we have our wisdom mind fully available to see what actually was happening, to fully understand what was happening. When we're in that stress reaction, that wisdom mind, we cannot access that. You know, we can see that when we are in a fight, we have a disagreement with someone. And while we are in the disagreement, it is very difficult for reason to come, but it is also difficult for a solution to come that is beneficial for both. But when we back off and we sit with it and we fully relax and we say, okay, whatever, you know, then suddenly the wisdom, once we really let go, the wisdom mind can come. And the wisdom mind can come with solutions that we had never thought of, that we cannot think of when we are in the stress. And I think that is something that Buddhism can teach us, you know, that when we develop the wisdom mind more and more, that we get something that we can trust. And then maybe independence on that, we have the courage to fully relax and then see what wisdom comes from that. So we are the same as animals in that we have that stress reaction, but we are not the same as animals in that animals know how to let go of that reaction straight after the event, and we have more trouble letting that go. There are also kind of therapies that help you to learn to shake. I don't know if you've heard of that. They learn to first that you build up the muscle tension and then you relax, and then the muscles, they start shaking. And then they say you shake off the stress. I don't know, I see online more and more people who are doing all kinds of things with their body in order to relax everything, you know, that can also help. We have to find a way, how can I shake this off? And it is not going to happen intellectually, we have to do that physically, because the reaction is in the physical body. Right, so we need to find something for that. And so then what we do is when something happens, what makes us different from animals is that we have that rational mind, right? And so when we use that rational mind to develop our wisdom and to develop a method so that we can access that wisdom, and we will talk about that this afternoon, how we can, if we know how we can do that, then we can use that rational mind in order to benefit ourselves and also to benefit others. Right? That rational mind becomes like the entrance to our wisdom. But our rational mind, we can also use that in our reaction to the fearful event, in our reaction to the fear. We can use that rational mind, what you just said. The mind goes like, oh, next time I should do this, or I should do that, or we go over the story again and again, right? I don't know, when I was young and if something would happen, I would call friend after friend, tell the whole story in the hope that it would stop. But you're actually aggravating something constantly. You go over it again and again and again. And the story is not going to be, it doesn't make the story disappear. Right? We want the story to disappear by talking about it, but it already has happened. It cannot disappear. Right? Do we do that? And sometimes we feel like it really helps me. But how long, you know? Maybe 5 minutes, and then I think, oh, who else can I call? Oh, I call this friend. So we call that in Buddhism mental engagement. We have thoughts that create a story, and that these storylines are actually fueled by our either the attachment or our aversion. Yes. That can, when we can get into blame, we use that also, yes. So blame, if I describe blame as a way to get rid of the suffering, right? So something has happened, I'm suffering. And then when suffering arises, automatically we want to be free of that, right? We want to separate from that. So if I just blame you, it will separate me from my suffering. That's what we believe. But it's not an accurate method, right? It's not a method that works. And when we think about it, oh no, that doesn't work. But we do it as an automatic reaction. And then you can see your rational mind is not there. It is an emotional mind that has learned to behave in a certain way, but it's completely dysfunctional. True? But I think it is dysfunctional, but it is also good to see it is our attempt to become free of suffering. And so when we see that, it can become the entrance to compassion for ourselves. And then when we can develop that compassion for ourselves, we actually help ourselves to release that suffering. And then that mind, that crazy mind, will automatically stop. True? Everyone with me, or do I sometimes make too big steps? There's nothing wrong with asking questions and say, I can't get it. I don't know anything about this. So if we look into that mental engagement, what it is actually doing, when unpleasant feelings arise, what mental engagement is trying to do is trying to kind of undo what has happened. We cannot accept it. We resist what has happened. We undo it, right? I try to undo that by blaming the other person. It's not me, it's the other person, in the hope that it's going to go away from me. We resist it, It's like when I start talking the story, it's also a resistance of accepting what has happened. When I talk about it, it might appear as if I have accepted. But if I keep talking about it, I have not accepted it. Your actions show that you have not accepted it. True? When we something fully accept, no need to talk about it. But when we have a need to talk about it, we need to release something, right? So then we have not fully experienced what actually has happened. We're still resisting it. So. What happens when you turn that blind? So you might blind others, but in certain situations you might turn that blind. Same problem. It's also not going to help you. So what do you do when you put the blame on yourself, not on others, but you put it on yourself? Right? This is your question. I just say it so that everybody can hear it. Yeah. Same problem. If you blame yourself in the sense that, oh, I did that and stupid me and I should not, and I should not is already, I don't accept that I did that. Right? The unpleasant feeling itself is not a problem, but our reaction to what happens, that's the problem. And so how we can undo that reaction, we're going to talk about that after lunch, when we know a little bit more about what actually happens in our mind. So when we can't deal with unpleasant feelings, when we do all kinds of things mentally in order to resist that feeling from arising in the mind, and that is what we can call suppression of unpleasant feelings. Right? The unpleasant feeling is coming up, and then I have all kinds of methods not to feel that. I don't want to feel that. So then the mind goes spinning in whatever direction. I can also go out and have a drink. right? And another one, and another one, another one, not to have to feel what I'm actually feeling. So then, so that is all in relation to something that already has happened, in relation to the past. Then we also have fear in relation to the future, something that might happen, right? So then the mind starts worrying and starts playing out all kinds of scenarios, what might happen and what I can do when this happens and what I can do when that happens. And so that is also a stress. And although we all know that when we have this and then the event happens, the event is always different from all the scenarios that we played in our mind. But still we feel somehow it's beneficial if we go through this, right? If we create all that stress within ourselves, we think this is my preparation for the future. True? It's weird, no? And if you start thinking about it, it's weird. It's like I know that nothing of what I think about is going to happen, because I mean, Lama Zopa says we can't even know what is going to happen in the next moment. But still, I believe that's a good preparation. And we all worked up when we arrive at the moment the event is going to happen. Right? But we have never learned how to prepare for the future in a healthy way. Because many human beings are doing it like that. Maybe our mom is doing it like that, so this is what we learn. How to prepare for the future. But nobody told us, if you just relax and you do your very best right now, and you focus your mind on the right now, and you do what you can right now, what is going to be useful for later, then that later will happen automatically. And then you will have a whole bag of tools with you that will be very useful when you are there. And so we need to learn to become okay with not knowing what is going to happen, but still have the confidence that we can deal with what is going to happen. Right? So in order to learn that, we have to bring ourselves back to the present moment again and again and focus on now. Okay, I need to do a talk. What do I need to do in order to do a talk? I do a preparation. Right? So what is it that I would like to give? What is it, where do I like others to bring their input? Whatever, I can think, but I can do that now. That is not about thinking, oh, what's going to happen? And maybe they're going to ask me this and I don't have an answer to that. And I can't remember this. And that's not helpful. Right? So we need to recognize that our current way of doing, and it's good, maybe that you think, how do I do that? When fear arises in the mind about something that already has happened, something fearful has happened, what do I do in order to release that fear, or in order to show my aversion to what has happened? And what do I do with future things that scare me? And then we also need to see that the way that we react, the suffering that comes with that, the stress that comes with that. Right? It is a habit of thinking that we have, a habit of reacting that we have, that causes a lot of stress. And I think when we are in stress, we are not our authentic self. We are not our best self. We're trying to be the best, but because of that, we are not the best. And we all do that, right? Is a pattern that we learn, and it is a pattern that all sentient beings are doing. We're doing that in the society, and the way that we are doing that is actually, it becomes worse and worse, and people become more and more anxious and more scared and more stressed, because we follow a certain way of doing things, which is based on disturbing emotions, based on attachment and aversion, not based on loving kindness and compassion, not based on wisdom. We don't teach our children how to be wise. We don't teach our children how to love themselves. Do we? We don't teach our children that they're good enough the way they are. We were not taught. We were not taught how to do that, right? Yes, 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 yes. I don't want to blame anyone, right? We're all in the same boat, and we all received it, right, from somebody. The fact that we pass it on is because we have it. Yeah. Yeah, it's something that we'll come later to that. So another way that we are different from animals is that animals only get triggered when they are in immediate danger. But we get also triggered when we think we are in danger. Or when somebody tells us when we are in danger. We get also stressed when we hear about others who are in danger. Right, when we hear about stories about others. I don't know, sometimes I watch the news and then you hear, oh, Nigeria, there's this village with 40 people got killed, and you see the village and nothing is there and there's only burnings. I get stressed, right? Because there are other human beings who lose their life for what? For nothing, yeah.
Is that also the compassion?
Yeah, there might be compassion, but when others, human beings, suffer, there is a reaction in my body too, right? They say that animals don't have that. I think when animals see other animals suffer, they might have something like that. But we have it when we think about it. Right? And we have thinking minds. And how many time goes the mind like, oh, these poor people, and we think about others. And then when we think about others, it's good to think about others, but if it stresses you out, please don't. First learn something else before you do that, because you're not going to help the other person by thinking about them and then being stressed about them. You're not going to reach them in any way, and you're only causing a problem for yourself. So it is very important that to know that when we hear stories that there might be a danger for us, that already triggers a stress reaction. True? We have to, I mean, here, maybe it was not here, I was in Victoria before, and then these fires were there. Might be coming here, right? It might be coming here. Stress is there. And when there's stress, the mind reacts and the body reacts. And then when we stay in that, both the mind and the body become more and more unhealthy. And then it becomes more and more difficult to live with ourselves. You know, it becomes unpleasant to be alive, to live our life. And so we would like to, I mean, we are living in a stressful time, right? There is a lot going on in the world, and or we are told that a lot is going on in the world. Might be true or not true. We do not know, right? But it stresses us out. And we all know that we get stressed by this. True? And it's not healthy. I keep thinking, you know, why don't we teach children how, for instance, have you heard of the 16 guidelines for a happy life? Right. Yeah, we did them, right? Even when I was here, I think we did a few of these things. So this helps you to develop good qualities within yourself, and how to relate to yourself, how to relate to others, how to make your life more meaningful. And it is talking about developing qualities like generosity, loving kindness, contentment, patience, courage, ethics. Oh, so what if we teach children these kind of qualities instead of teaching them the opposite, how to be competitive, how to be better than somebody else, how to become something that they are not in actuality, what if we teach children that? I think that we would have a completely different world, right? And there would be no stress. If I make children familiar with the practice of giving, with the practice of loving kindness, with the practice of, we become more relaxed. Right? So I think it's not too difficult to turn it around. But instead, we are living at the moment in an environment or in a society in which we get constantly stressed. Right? There are wars, fires, climate change. What else? We had the COVID. We had, sometimes they say, oh, more viruses are going to come. And then they first go into animals, and then they come to human beings. And what else? Huh? And then we think, oh, we have to be scared of Trump. Cybersecurity, yes. Oh, so now you need to identify yourself before you go online, because otherwise, there are going to be pedophiles. They're going to be around, and I always think, I think there are just as many pedophiles around. But what we need to do is we need to identify ourselves, right? The pedophiles, I don't think they have to do that. We have to do it. Sorry. So we are scared on all kinds of levels. So we are made scarce on all kinds of levels because we hear something. And then we hear somebody else saying, oh, I know what we need to do in order to give you safety. You need to do this, you need to do that. And I say, yes, I'll do it because I want to be safe. Right? So stress can be used in many ways that might not be so beneficial for us. Right? If I'm the boss of the television programs and I want to achieve something, I can show you whatever I want. And I can make it look like things are happening. And I can tell you all kinds, there are always bad stories, on the news. I get so stressed when I watch the news. I think, oh my God, never a good story. But I can show you whatever I want, and you will get afraid. And when you get afraid, your disturbing emotions are there, your aversion is there, your attachment is there. And then I can hook into that because you don't have control over that. But I can let you do things that I would like you to do. Right? This is how things work. I hope you know that or not. Maybe, I don't know, but it's like I see it at the moment everywhere, that I think, oh my God, we have to turn off all this, because if I'm just here, there is nothing going on. We're all good with each other. We all take care of each other. We all have good intentions. There is loving kindness and compassion. It's all there. All right? And we can relax in that. Then I turn on whatever, and the stress is there, because it seems that everything is not going right. But if I live my life and I walk, where are things not going right? Huh? Right? Most things are going right. Most things are going right. And we need to see that, right? And to connect with that. And when we really connect with that, we relax. It's good for the heart. It's good for the soul. Yes. I don't know, we have come in a very strange society. It's, I don't really want to talk about it, but it is like that. And the fact that we react to stories that we hear, or stories that we you know, that we see or made to believe, we react to that, makes us so vulnerable. You know, and if we know that, and if we know how we can change that, and how we can become more vulnerable for these influences, if we become more independent in our own being, you know, then we can relax. Even if there's a lot of stress around us, we can relax within that. But we need to know how the body and the mind work together, and how even the body starts reacting. And it's very difficult to turn that off. Yes. Yeah. What does it not fix? Which habit? Yeah, it doesn't fix the habit, but it doesn't feed the habit either. Right? So we stop feeding that wolf, and then we go from there. Right? Then we're going to look into then how can I stop the habit? Right? But you first have to stop feeding it if you want to, yeah. One more question and then we have a little break, no? Yeah. Yeah, we are attached to that. We are totally attached to that. I think attachment makes us feel alive. You know, in Buddhism we say that we are living in the desire realm, and what brings us here is our desire, is our attachment. So, and that attachment, we can use that in a positive way in order to create connection with each other and create a kind of a fabric of humanity that holds us together. But attachment, when we attachment is what makes us alive, what is our motivator, it's our biggest motivator. So when we use it to create a fabric of humanity where we meet each other, fine, right? That attachment, that's the function of that attachment. But I think at the moment what is happening is that our attachment is used to destroy the fabric of humanity by making everybody individuals. You know, I don't know about your algorithm, but I see only certain things on my social media, and I love to see everything, and I cannot. I can only access this, and I'm the only one who has that access. And you have different access, and you have different, everybody has different access. And so we're living all in our own world. So we separate. We can't even, we don't even have a common ground to talk with each other anymore, because we don't have access to that. So we all become separate. And then within that, our attachment gets triggered in a way that it gets exaggerated. And it somehow gives us the feeling to be alive, right? We start scrolling and it gives us the feeling we are alive. I mean, if you think about it, it's totally insane. But that's the feeling that we are getting. And so we go further and further, and the attachment gets bigger, 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 and it's not taking us anywhere. I did not want to talk about this at all today, but I don't know.
Turns it around, and instead you concentrate on things like no limits to hope, which is the meme that is being encouraged now through trying to get young people to focus on positive stories and communities focusing on positive stories. And the more you celebrate the positive, the more the cycle is towards giving more hope and more energy, and it motivates. So the
Total attachment.
Sorry?
Total attachment.
Maybe, but
So it's never going to bring you what you want.
but in a political sense, it's better to focus on hope and positive stories than the doom stories that encourage the doom scrolling.
I think both are not healthy. Both are not healthy. So at first they throw us in the darkness and oh no, let's force it on but it's the same. It's totally the same mechanism in the mind. Same mechanism in the mind. Both. Yeah, we have to do something, and we will talk about what we can do, right? Because we want to find that place where we are healthy and where we can do something, and that is positive, but it is not just focus on the positive, and it's not hope. It is actually generating a mind that is positive, that the positivity is within us, you know, it is within us. We don't need hope for the positive. But how to connect with that, you know, we are totally disconnected from that. And so we need to reconnect with that. Hope is like, it's like, what? It's like you create an illusion of hope and fears, right? Hope and fears are both based on not abiding in reality. They're the two. So first they dinged us into fear for the last 5 years, all fear. And now they say, now we need to do the hope. Same story. Don't believe it. We'll talk about it. Because you need to have a good alternative to this, right? To what they're presenting you, we need a good alternative. And at the end of the day, you will have that. All right? But we need to have a little break because you're all thirsty and you want to have a tea.